Good morning, everyone. I'm actually a teacher at heart, so I want to be closer to people. I wouldn't call you students, but yeah, I want to be closer to the people, then I feel the connection. Um, uh, First of all, I wanted to praise the Lord for giving me this opportunity to be here, and I also would like to, thank the Interface leadership team for inviting me for the third time in the last 4 years. Obviously, I'm so grateful for this opportunity because every time I get an opportunity to speak, I meditate, I pray, and I reflect on my. It gives me an opportunity to reflect on my life's journey and what really worked for me, what didn't really work. So, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's definitely a privilege, and I wanted to begin by saying there was a season in my life where I genuinely believed that I would never stand a chance to become a leader. Because in my subconscious mind, I always felt like if you really want to be a great leader, you need to be born with certain traits, certain gifts, certain talents. In my head, a leader is a born leader. Since I do not have any of those talents, I always thought that I would never stand a chance to become a leader who people would really admire and follow. I thought leadership is always for gifted people. Leadership is always for charismatic people. Leadership is always reserved for people who are naturally confident, and I'm not any of them. So I thought I would never be able to, you know, become a leader and lead. Forget about an organization, even a small team as well. That was my state of mind. So today, what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk to you about some of the leadership pitfalls that I've encountered, my leadership journey, and some of the leadership pitfalls that any leader would encounter, and what I personally experienced in my life. And obviously, I cannot talk about all of them. So I picked up two leadership pitfalls for this uh, session, and obviously, during before the break, I will talk about the first one, and then after the break, still have if I still have your attention, I'll be able to continue with the second pitfall, and then probably we'll have a question and session format. Whether have I got the format correctly? Thank you very much. Um, so I'm a father of two boys who are currently pursuing medicine, and I'm a proud husband to a superwoman, and I'm a lecturer turned IT professional who is currently working as the managing director of a company called EnergyTech.ai. And for the last 20 years, I've been married 25 years ago. And but for the last 20 years, me and my wife have been blessed by God to work together for two organizations. Initially, we worked for a company called Intergraph in Begumpet, and then now together we are building this company working together. So I really don't have a work-life balance problem because she's all the time with me, and she is my best friend, my accountability partner, and I don't have two lives, office life and home life, right? I really, really thank God for giving this wonderful opportunity. Not many people would have that opportunity to work with your best friend and life partner, both at work, right, and building a family together. So we are really, really grateful for God for giving that opportunity. Is my voice echoing? Um, should I change my place or? Okay. And I also wanted to, in the beginning itself, also wanted to tell you I am imperfect, and I know my shortcomings, and I know what I'm capable of, what I'm not capable of. But at the same time, I would say I am an incredibly, incredibly blessed child of God. If you probably can listen to my life story, the testimony that I shared, a part of Lead Talks Chennai an year ago, it's available in YouTube. So if you understand and if you go through my life story, you'll understand where I've actually come from and where am I today. And I'm really, really thankful for God for giving that opportunity to me. And I was fortunate enough to undergo a lot of leadership trainings. How many of you know Dr. John C. Maxwell? Okay, so I've been personally trained by him, mentored by him, and I get to talk to him um, once every quarter as well, right? And I'm also fortunate enough to be trained by my organization, an institute called Institute of Strategic Leadership in Queensland, New Zealand. And I've been trained on organization storytelling. I've been trained on personal transformation. So I'm really, really thankful to God for giving a lot of opportunities for me and sending a lot of mentors into my life who spoke into my life and then helped me to become a better person. And and anytime, generally I get an opportunity to speak about leadership, share my life lessons. Over the years, I got this opportunity many times, and whenever I get an opportunity, and doesn't matter how big is the congregation, how small is the congregation, whenever I wanted to go and spend my quality time with them, I want them to, my intention and my aim is always as such that I want people to live with certain practical, things which they can apply in their personal life and, make their life slightly better compared to, attending my session. So that was always my prayer. That was always my intention. So today also, by the time we complete the two sessions, I want you to pick up, a few things. The reason why I say that is one idea executed well can change your life. I don't know how well that resonates with you. How well do you agree with that? But I'm a testimony for that concept. One idea executed well has the ability and power to transform your life, right? And I want you to look for that one idea with which you can walk out of this prayer hall today, right? That is my first request. And my second request is, I'm not going to teach you any gyan, or I'm not going to teach you any wisdom, right? I'm going to teach you things which you already know, but I'm going to bring them from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. I'm going to bring it to your forefront. One of the most dangerous word in this world is the word that I know it, or saying that I've heard that before. Those are the most dangerous words in this world. And why do I say that? The biggest gap in our life is not between what we know and what we don't know. It's between what we know and what we actually do. Do you agree with me? That's why I'm going to encourage you. So I asked you to look for one idea with which you can walk out of this prayer room. And secondly, now I'm going to ask you, while you are listening to me, when I say things that you are already aware of, don't tell to yourself that I know it, I heard it before. Ask yourself, how well am I living that principle? How well can I execute that in my life, right? And the next thing that I wanted to tell you, you are not here by accident. I'm not here by accident. It's by God's design. Do you all believe that? Every single thing that has happened in your life, every single thing that you have ever done, every single decision that you have made in your life has led you to this very room on this very day, in this very moment. So you are here by God's design. So I want you to step up, seize the moment, and make it yours. And finally, don't look at the messenger, just look at the message. Okay, so with that, let me begin by talking about my life story, right? So as I said, that I started my journey as a lecturer, and I worked in, after doing my dual degrees, as sister mentioned, masters in physics and masters in MTech in energy systems, with both with gold medals. But my intention was always to get into an IT field, because my mother is a daily wage laborer, my father was a daily wage laborer, and we had a very difficult upbringing. And my intention was always, while going to church as well, my prayer to God was always to, how can I help my parents to come out of this trouble as soon as I can. So I've seen someone in my village studying BTech in one of the colleges in Bangalore, and then going to USA. So they happen to be our relatives. So they have invited a lot of people from our village to come and visit Begumpet Airport to give send off to their son, right? And that's where I decided and made up my mind to choose this fast track route. That time, that was, as a kid, that's all I could think of. okay, if I become software engineer, I can earn money fast, and then I can actually help my parents to come out of their current state of mind. So though I was doing my studies, while I was doing my bachelor's in electronics, I was studying diploma in computer applications. While I was doing my MSc in physics, I only used university as a place for free education, and stay. Then I did my postgraduate diploma in computer applications, and then while I went to, after clearing gate, when I went to Tirupati to do my MTech project work, I started teaching Java in Tirupati, and then I went and I did my MTech project work in IISc Bangalore, and I started teaching Java there. But then it so happened that I couldn't get a job. It was 2001. That's when I cleared my MTech, and Y2K boom was over, and everyone is losing their jobs. And the hostel that I stayed, every weekend people used to come back home saying that they've been fired. And having done two masters, and I no longer wanted to be a burden to my parents, so I inevitably, without having any option, I went and joined in an engineering college who is willing to pay a city scale to me in Bangalore. That's how I started my teaching career. Then, cut the long story short, got married to someone from Sainingpuri, and then all that I'm doing is teaching. Why should I stay back in Bangalore? Why can't I come back to Hyderabad? So I'm here. But when I came here, uh, I realized that educational institutions won't pay you well. Then the only option that I have is either Sri Chaitanya or Narayana. So I went back and joined Sri Chaitanya Educational Institution teaching physics for IIT aspirants. I was there for 4 years. But my life ambition was always to move to IT. That never happened. But then my wife, she's MCA in computer science, MTech computer science from Osmania University, and she joined Intergraph, and she started working for that company. Again, to cut the long story short, God gave me an opportunity to, that's a miraculous story again, don't want to get into it. Um, I, I went back, I came back, joined Intergraph as a software developer way back in 2005. And I made my way up, moved from software developer to lead programmer, project leader, scrum master, manager technical, senior manager technical. Within 10 years, I moved up the ranks, and I was leading a division called geospatial division. And then during that period, God has given me an opportunity to go and roam around the globe. Intergraph obviously had 40 different offices across the globe. So they sent me, during those 10 years, they sent me to Germany, USA, not USA, Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, various other places. And God has given me an opportunity to work with amazing people and always improve my um, qualities. My last time also when I was here, I shared with you that my default setting is, even when I start spending some time with some of you, my default mode would be on, and my default mode would be, what can I learn from this sister? What can I learn from this brother? Right? Because each one of us are blessed with a few good qualities, right? So I always look for it. So because I was always on that mode, so it gave me an opportunity to excel in my career. And then it so happened that 2015 I got an opportunity, and one of my ex-boss from New Zealand invited me to Taj. Krishna asked me whether I'm interested to quit my job and set up an IT company here in Hyderabad, because he wanted to start an electricity retailing company in New Zealand, and he wanted me to build the retailing platform using open source technology and cloud that time. I said no. Who would want to? Because people are envious about my job, because you're based out of Hyderabad. Every 6 months you are deployed to some country, and then your wife and kids would come and join you, right? And then you learn from different teams all over the globe. You come back, you share the knowledge, you're set for other opportunities. So, and you're working for a company that time with more than 1,200 people, so you don't want to do that, right? So again, to cut the long story short, I had to start this company called, that time we were known as Energy Tech Global way back in 2015. So we started that company, and I started that time. I remember soon after starting the company, attending one leadership conference, and the speaker asked people to raise their hand if they think they are leaders. And I remember some people raised their hand, some people waiting for others to take the lead, and some of them are not sure whether they are leaders or not, and people like me waiting for the speaker to repeat the question as well. So that was my state of mind. And but anyway, now I got an opportunity. I started the company, and as I said, my state of mind was, I'm not a born leader. I don't have all those traits, and I I don't I don't think I'll be able to make this organization so big. And I started getting confused myself. Why did I say yes to this assignment? And by the time when we reached about, again, the task that was given to me is build a foreign subsidiary here. Forget about foreign subsidiary. I have a zero knowledge of HR, legal, finance, nothing. I am someone who is just leading a small team of 10 people who is super delighted with his ability of architecting, designing, delivering, So, but beyond that, I don't know anything. But I was given that responsibility. When I got that responsibility, I said yes, thinking that, of course, we prayed. Me and my wife have prayed for almost a month. And finally, we decided that, okay, so she will stay back and she will provide the financial stability and security to our family. I would jump and build my wings on the way down. And, God has clearly given me direction saying, just make the most out of that opportunity. But then here I am, after 1 year down the line, I think probably the organization would have reached 40 people or so. And then I realized that I am becoming a lead on my organization because I'm trying to do something which is way bigger than myself. And, I realized that while I was on this journey, I started realizing that my communication skills were not up to the mark, my relationships skills were not up to the mark, my networking skills were not up to the mark. And I also realized that no organization would ever outgrow its leader, right? And because you will become a lid on the growth of your team, or your family, or your community, or your organization, right? When leader gets better, everyone gets better. When leader gets better, everyone will win, right? So I could clearly sense that because I'm experiencing it. Then it came to a point that I decided that this is not for me. I will go back, and then I will join some MNC again, and then I go back and start working abroad. But then my nature is as such that I would never take no for an answer, and I wanted to definitely give it one last try. So then I started praying and fasting and asking God. You asked me to go ahead and take up this responsibility, but here I am. I'm literally struck, and and though I've got good technical capabilities, I'm good at certain things, but I'm not able to lead this organization, right? And because I'm not a born leader, so I'm not able to influence people. I'm not able to guide them properly. Most importantly, I'm not able to attract the right talent into the organization, right? So that's my biggest challenge as well. And then I started praying God, asking God. And then one day I encountered a sentence from a DVD that I purchased in my church. We go to New Life Assembly of God Church, and that time it used to be in the near Tivoli Theatre, Millennium Gardens. And then they were selling Global Leadership Summit DVDs. Then I purchased one DVD after the session, and then I inserted in my car while going home. And then some gentleman whom I never knew, whom I never heard of, popped up on my car screen and started telling that leadership is a skill which can be actually learned, mastered, right? It's not a born talent. It's actually a skill which can be studied, which can be learned, which can be practiced and mastered. That was one of the biggest revelations of my life. So until that point, I've never come across, though I've read a lot of literature, listened to a lot of people, I've never heard never heard anyone saying so confidently that it is actually a skill which you can study, which you can learn, which you can practice, and eventually you can master it. So that was a biggest life-changing moment for me. And I know when I asked you who is John C. Maxwell, the person who popped up on my screen was John C. Maxwell, and he's the one who is saying that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. In that particular 30 minutes duration, before I bef- before I could reach my home, there are certain things that I learned. First thing, I already told you that it is a skill. right? It can be mastered with due attention, due practice. And he also said leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And he went on to say that it is nothing to do with titles, it's all about influence, right? And then that actually changed my life. I went back, and by the way, John C. Maxwell is an American author, speaker, leadership coach, wrote more than 90 books, sold more than 40 million copies, is close to 80 years old now, and is actually a pastor. He worked as a pastor for first 25 years of his career, and then he started teaching leadership, right? And then that was the defining moment of my life. And then I went, and what I did, I started purchasing his books, started reading books like 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Developing the leader within you too. I started reading them, and they were in a very plain language, and I have an opportunity now to apply and test it with my teams, right? Because that's the need of the hour for me as well. So I started practicing them. I started seeing the results. Not just me, my board and my leadership team started seeing something is happening on the floor with the people, and some magic is going on, and all of a sudden they see change in productivity, change in mindset. Change management is happening at a rapid pace, and people are available all the time, and people are respecting their roles, and so many things, tangible, intangible things. They've realized it, and then said, they asked me, why don't you go and spend time with John C. Maxwell, who is helping you now, indirectly, through his podcast, through his books. And that's when, for the first time, I went to USA, spent time with him, and then I had the opportunity to be mentored by him. And since then, my life has been never the same, you know. And now standing here, I've run this company after. So I said, first 5 years I worked as a lecturer. Then afterwards, 10 years I worked for a company called Interra. Then I got this opportunity. So I went back, my wife stayed there, I went back and started this company. And then within 1.5 year time, she came back and she joined me. Now it's been 11 years. Now we have changed from Energytech Global to Energytech.ai. We started as a company which is selling electricity in New Zealand. It's a captive unit. It's the IT, I run the IT unit with a team of, close to 250 and odd people. We have built a platform, a world-class retailing platform using the same we sell electricity in New Zealand. And then we expanded ourselves to gas retailer. Now, last 5 years, we also moved into a broadband retailer, and we are also a mobile network operator. So if I have to make it easy for you, we are like the Geo of New Zealand. We supply broadband. We also not in terms of the revenue and size, but certainly because New Zealand itself is a small nation, doesn't have half of Hyderabad population. So but our core proposition is selling electricity. We give 1 hour of free power to all our customers every single day. They can do anything. That's our USP. That's our business unique proposition that we provide to people, and we are hugely successful there. So it's been 11 years now. Standing here, I can confidently say, with the leadership journey that I've gone through, I can confidently say that I know at least a thing or two about how to hire right, how to train right, how to treat right, how to position right, how to pay right, in fact how to fire right too, right? And it's been a roller coaster ride of 11 years, right? And it's not an easy journey. As sister mentioned that, now I always, one of the trick that I do, which I would highly encourage you to do, is I'll always look for environments or opportunities where I'm not the smartest one in the room, right? I always want, because the default tendency of people is as such that you wanted to be the smartest one in the group, you wanted to be the smartest one in your team or in your organization, because I have a counter proposition. So I never would want to keep myself in a place where I'm actually the smartest one, or everyone is looking up to me, or depending on my wisdom or my knowledge. I always keep myself in a growth environments. I always keep myself in midst of people who are more intelligent than me, more sharper than me, and they're better than me in many ways. So that is one of the reasons why I joined Hyderabad Software Enterprise Association as well. Um, Obviously, as a company, we registered in 2015 as one of the members of this Apex IT industry body, which represents more than 90% of Hyderabad ITS industry, both in terms of revenue and headcount. But then from 18, I started volunteering as well. And then come 2020, I'm able to contest myself as a managing committee member, and I could get elected. And how did that happen? By constantly adding value, um, by constantly making sure that your presence is making a huge difference in whatever setting that you are in, right? But my ultimate goal of getting into the managing committee is I can be surrounded by more smart people than me, and I get an opportunity to talk to them, invite them for a cup of coffee, sit with them, get into their life stories, understand what works for them, understand what are their challenges, how they have overcome those challenges. Now, it's a 2-year term. I got elected from 2020 to 2022, again 2022 to no 2020 to 2022, and then 2 to 24. 4 to 6. Now I got elected for the 4th term very recently to be part of it. Now, if you look at that managing committee of 20 and odd people, you'll have heads of probably the center head of Infosys, center head of Tech Mahindra. You'll have someone leading the operations of Evernorth, or maybe a Bosch, or I don't know, Wipro. So it gives me an opportunity to have the proximity to these smart and most accomplished people, so which would actually help you to have meaningful conversations with them, tap into their wisdom, tap into their knowledge, right, and tap into their experience. So my advice to you is always look for such opportunities. When was the last time, have you ever asked any of your managers or whoever that you're working, or your center heads, or people who you admire a lot, for a cup of coffee? Did you ever approach them and said, hey, I wanted to have 30 minutes of your time, can we have a cup of coffee? I really wanted to pick your brain and understand and get some wisdom from you. These are simple things, and makes it very difficult for us. Our ego would not allow us, or our personality, you may not have that dynamism to be able to reach out to people and then say, hey, I really want to. It could be anyone, right? It need not be based on the titles. It could be someone who doesn't have any of the title, but you really love them, you really like them, you admire their personality, you admire their work ethic, you admire how they are growing on a daily basis. So you really wanted to spend time with them and try to understand and pick their brain to see if there is anything that you can learn from their lives, right? So that's one of the opportunity. And I told you that the DVD that I purchased from Global Leadership Summit is the one which changed my life. And then look at God plans. God made me as the founding director of Global Leadership Summit in India, and I served as the founding director for 3 years, and then now I stepped down and passed on the mantle to another more accomplished people whose service is very much needed at this time of, or at this season of the Global Leadership Summit. So God, God opens doors miraculously if you keep your eyes wide open and keep your default mode as your growth mode, right? And when you look at leadership, I'm sure you would agree with me that leadership is, again, when I say leadership, don't go by just title, right? I'm not talking about, for me, leadership is not about title. It's about, if you're able to influence others, you are a leader, right? As a mother, you will have huge influence. As a father, you will have a huge influence. As head of a family, you will have huge influence, or a team lead, or a manager, or a head of a community, or a church, or no matter whatever that you are doing, you will have huge influence. So there is this thing called of the purest form of leadership. I don't know how many of you know. Working for a voluntary organization or being a volunteer and effectively adding value is considered to be the purest form of leadership. Now I see, brother, right now I don't know all the leadership team members of Interface, but I certainly know Brother Wilson and Brother Sudhir. And And this is a voluntary act, right? And they have some noble intentions in their mind to help people transform their life, right, their character, and make them better people. And they're doing it on a monthly basis, right? And when you go and work for a in a why do I say that being a volunteer is the purest form of leadership? When you are a volunteer, when you go and join somewhere as a volunteer, you will not have any title, you will not have any position. The only way you will be able to shed your influence is by adding value. If you don't add value, do you think that when I joined HICIA, I did not directly become a managing committee member. I volunteered myself to a forum called SME Forum, and for 2 years relentlessly I constantly looked for ways to add value on a weekly basis, right? That's the only way you can actually make yourself project yourself as a leader. So that's why being a volunteer is considered to be um, purest form of leadership. And when you go for higher level interviews as well, actually people would ask for whether or not you've got any voluntary experience. I'm also a part of a TEDx Hyderabad core team. Again, it did not happen just like that. I joined as a volunteer. I volunteered for 2 years. It's quite difficult for me living in Sainikpuri, driving every alternate Saturday to IIIT Hyderabad, spending a couple of hours. I'm passionate about it because I wanted to. It gives me again proximity to when you talk about TEDx Hyderabad or any TEDx platform, you bring people who are quite accomplished in their life, right? Who have achieved something in their lives, who have something to offer to people, right? And then I'm so passionate about it. And I started as a volunteer. Within 3 years, I became the core team member. And even now, I'm continuing as a TEDx Hyderabad core team member, and I'm part of the speaker selection and speaker curation team. What does it mean? If we have 11, this year we have 11 speakers who spoke in TEDx Hyderabad. I get an opportunity to spend time with 11 of them, each one 3 times, which means I would have participated in 33 online meetings with all of them, helping them curate their understanding their life story, understanding what they would want to communicate, what do they want to teach, right? And then spending time with them, learning, right? So that is an amazing opportunity. I don't know how many of you are actually ever participated or was being part of any voluntary organization. I would highly encourage you to be part of it as well. And why I say you should not think about titles. How many of you are actually working? Can you raise your hands? Okay, so many people, right? When you are working on your floor with your teams, you will always find someone who is always willing to help the person sitting on their left, sitting on their right. They will not have the title, they will not have the position. They would love to engage with people, they would love to help people. But there are some people who would do it at the cost of their own work. I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about people who would show the in spite of attitude, not instead of attitude, right? And then they would not drop a ball on their work, but at the same time they are very keen to engage with others, help people, but they will not have any titles. You may have a project lead within the team, but as a team member, when I need some help, I would obviously look for this person who is selflessly adding value. On the top of that, if that person is never looking for a credit, that's a dangerous combination. When I say dangerous, powerful combination. If I am someone, if I am willing to help people in my team, people in my community, or wherever that I am present in, at the same time I'm not looking for credit, you know what happens? People would not hesitate twice to come and seek your help, seek your guidance. And then you may say, Kishore, how would others know that I'm actually helping, I'm making a difference, I'm actually shifting the dial for the greater good of the team, for the greater good of the organization? You don't need to. It will eventually come out. Can you put your hand to sun and then, can you hide the brightness coming out of it? You can't. You can only stop it for a fixed period of time. But beyond that, you can't. Because what happens is, in the process of helping others, you will make yourself super, super valuable. Therefore, there comes a point where everyone would be turning their head looking for your nod, looking for your wisdom, right? That would only happen when you genuinely, passionately interested about mastering your craft. When I say mastering your craft, again, this should be your default mode. You should be doing it on a daily basis. Are you doing that? Right? And leadership is a very, very challenging position. If you are leaders, if you're already, in a, you're associated with a title, you understand what I'm talking about. You know, there are lots of pitfalls. There are lots of challenges. There's a communication pitfall. Some of you have been given leadership position, but you still struggle with your communication. And some of the leaders have got listening pitfall. They always would love to speak. They don't want to listen, right? And that's a pitfall, right? And some of them will have a positional authority pitfall. They wanted to hide or duck behind their title. They wanted to run the show by saying, I'm your boss, you got to listen to me, right? And then some of them will have they really struggle between doing stuff on their own versus delegating versus dumping it to others. Doing versus delegating versus dumping onto others, that's a pitfall. Sometimes we struggle to delegate stuff to other people, because you have your way of doing, you have your own standards, you have your own way of doing things, and you hold it so dearly to your heart, and you don't want to let go that. And some of you are fearful that if you teach something to others, you may lose all your superpowers on the floor, right? And then people would stop, you feel like people would stop recognizing your superpowers, right? For whatever is the reason, some of the leaders, they struggle with the delegation, and some of them have the problem of micromanagement. You understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going into each of them. Some of the leaders have got this micromanagement pitfall, and some of the leaders, they'll have vision pitfall. They won't be able to catch the vision. They will always look for others to catch that vision. They're operationally good, but they will have this vision pitfall. And some of them will have analysis paralysis pitfall. They wanted to spend hours, days, months together, weeks and months together to analyze the things, and so that's called analysis paralysis pitfall, and you will not be able to take a bold decision and move forward. And some of them will have accountability pitfall. They want designation, they wanted to be the manager, they wanted to take they wanted to manage everything, but when something goes wrong, and they wanted to take the accountability, and forget about when something is going wrong and then not taking the accountability, but they don't have the sense that they are actually accountable for something that they are doing on a daily basis. And some of them will have this recognition pitfall. They want recognition, right? And everything that the team does, they want the recognition, and they always without that affirmation, without the recognition, they won't be able to move forward. And some of them would have challenges with retaining the talent, whatever reason. Some of them are organizational, and some of them are something to do with his own personality, his own integrity, how he would deal with people, how he would talk to people, right? And some of them will have control freaks, right? You can have either control or you can have growth. You cannot have both, right? So some of them are control freaks, and then they will have that pitfall. And some of them are burnout pitfall, and some of them they struggle to maintain work-life balance, and then they, in the process of trying to do everything, too many things on their own, because they don't invest time in equipping people, because they feel like if you start investing time to equip people, you're actually missing out on the deadline, or maybe you are losing out on your time. But you know what, when you are equipping people, initially it might look slightly slower in the front end, but it is quite effective in the background. Because whatever my philosophy, what I follow at my work, every year I would try to look for at least a dozen activities that I am doing, and I don't want to do it next year. And I might need to invest a lot of time to equip people, to train people, because even I have that trap that I want things to be done my way. I want things to be done to up to my standards, right? It's okay, but take time. If the others also feel that that's the right approach, take time, spend time, equip people, and make sure that you delegate that, and you won't be doing that, and you won't be the bottleneck. And that way, what is actually happening is you are projecting yourself for more valuable task. You are actually moving forward the value chain, and the next level would see that, okay, this guy, whatever I give it to this guy, he makes it as a point. At some point of his journey, he will make sure that he will make his position redundant, and train the next set of leaders. thereby is coming back to your door and asking you to put him into different tasks. Now, let me ask this question. I see a lot of people here working in corporate for a long, long time. Have you ever went to your boss room and told him that, I have taken, I put enough effort, I've taken enough precautions to make sure that my team is in autopilot mode. I've got more people who can replicate what I'm currently doing. Why don't you promote one of them and give me an opportunity to take more challenging tasks? Have you ever thought of doing it? We don't. That's not the default mode, right? But that's so powerful, right? And yeah, so there's so many other things, like some people are having people pleasing pitfall. We always fail to distinguish that we are in leadership business and we are not in friendship business. Right? I'm not saying you can't be friends with your team members, but some people have that challenge, and as a result of that they will not be able to have um, challenging conversations with the people, right? And why do our parents will have challenging conversations with us, or why do we have challenging conversations with with our parents? Because they know at the end of the day they genuinely care about us. They always have our best interest in their mind. No matter how difficult that conversation is, we know at the end of the day they are our well wishers, right? And but I had this challenge initially as well, and I am a people pleaser, so it's quite difficult for us to challenge people. I'll come to that. So the list goes on, right? And you may say that, okay, Kishore, if leadership is coming to us with a lot of challenges, how do we get better at it? How do we overcome all those challenges? Can I say that, okay, I will just accept a position and then I will work my way up, and as I gain experience, I will learn? Yes, of course, with experience you can learn, but experience alone is not the best teacher, right? um, Rather, evaluated experience is the best teacher. And people say that wisdom will come with age. Sometimes age comes alone too, right? So there's no guarantee. With experience, with age, you will get better at your craft. Of course, you can reflect on your experiences on a daily basis and you can get better at it. But at the same time, life is so short and we can't learn from our own experiences. So we have to look for mentors. We have to learn from others' experiences as well, which is what this session is. And before coming here yesterday night, I had a very busy week. And yesterday night, though Brother Wilson has reached out to me almost 3 weeks ago or so, and we had our leadership team here, a 5-member leadership team, and we are doing a human-led, agent-operated change management transformation. We moved our company initially, as I said, that we started as a open source and cloud combination, and then 2 years ago we moved on to AI. So right now we are on a path to change all our software development lifecycle into agentic. In fact, we have already transformed to it to a greater extent. It's all pressing buttons now for our people, using the AI coding agents which are trained with our AI foundations. So they were here for 2 weeks and and then I'm catching up this week, catching up on lots of time critical stuff. And yesterday I sat at 4 o'clock to jot down some notes for this session. Um, and then I looked at interface YouTube page, and then I saw the kind of people who were coming here and then sharing their knowledge. And you should be really, really grateful for this platform and the people behind interface. It's not easy for you to get access to some. I'm not saying I'm great, or the people who preached from this pulpit are great, but I'm saying it's not easy for you to get time with them, and also having this quiet time of sitting and relaxedly listening to their life experiences is an amazing opportunity, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about, as I said, that quickly I'll talk about two. First, now I'll talk one and then we'll take a break. I'm going to talk about the positional authority pitfall. And in the second session, I want to talk about people pleasing pitfall. So, positional authority pitfall. Um, what my mentor told me is leadership is not a license to do less, it is a responsibility to do more. Does it resonate with you? It's not when you get a leadership title, right? You're not being given a crown to do less. In fact, you're given a responsibility to do more and bring the best out of people. Have you ever looked at your role like that? Have you ever, when you got the opportunity, even for a moment, did you realize that, in fact, you need to work more now? Because it's no longer about you, it's about your people. And you're being given the mantle to bring the best out of the people. And what does the Bible says? Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Matthew 20:26. Right? To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. So I repeat, leadership is not a license to do less, it's a responsibility to do more. Right? When you, as I said, when you are made a leader, you're not given a crown, you are given the responsibility to bring the best out of others. And my mentor repeatedly said, which always resonates, in my mind, leadership is all about influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's not about titles, not about positions, it's all about influence. And leadership is something that cannot be awarded or it cannot be given. It has to be earned. And if you're someone sitting here thinking that I've got a title, I've got seniority, which obviously makes me a leader, you are wrong. And if someone is sitting here thinking, no, I don't have a title, I don't have seniority, I'm just embarking on my career, I can't become a leader. No, you're again wrong. Seniorities or titles would never make you a leader. How much influence are you shedding on a daily basis? In any given environment, on any given day, in any given moment, you will see the dynamics of influence at play. When you're sending your kid to school early morning, the mother will have the huge influence. She will decide what he will eat, what he will wear, which books he will take along with him to school, right? Everything. So mother is having the highest influence. When the kid goes and gets into the bus, he will have the highest influence. Probably everyone likes your kid, everyone wants to sit with him, everyone wants to play with him, right? The point I'm trying to make is the dynamics of influence is at play at any given point of time. When the kid goes to the school, the teacher will have the highest influence. When the kid goes to play in the playground, probably someone from his neighborhood studying in the same school will have the highest influence. Maybe he's playing well. Once he comes back to home at the dining table, probably the father would be having the highest influence. And a while ago I gave you the example of the floor. On the floor, you will all, in your teams, you will always find someone who is not having title, but everyone looks up to him, right? And I also told you the power of volunteering as well, right? And then sometimes what happens is, especially in corporate, people are so fascinated about designations, right? And it's all about positional authority. And I'm talking about positional authority pitfall. I'm talking about titles, right? And ducking behind titles as well, or being so fascinated about the titles. So when once in a year we all will go through the performance appraisal cycle, and when the performance appraisal cycle happens, and you must be expecting something, or you don't get that title, you don't get that promotion, and then we get so demotivated, right? I've been myself in that shoes at the beginning of my career. When I did not get the promotion that I badly wanted, I got so demotivated. But what did I do? I bounced back 10 times. I added value 10 times more on every single day. I was intentionally looking for ways. I was intentionally looking for means to be able to add value, and that's my way of taking revenge. It's a foolishness, but it really worked, right? So what happens is, when you don't get the promotion, we get so demotivated, and we thought that the whole world is crashing down under our feet, and and everyone is so doing so much injustice, and then we actually sometimes get into a negative mindset, which will have an adverse impact on your career, on your growth. You don't realize that you're actually not helping yourself by putting you into that trap, by pushing you into that trap. you're not actually helping yourself. But the good news here is, I say this many a times, you may or may not become a team leader, may or may not become a manager whenever you wanted, or as per your expectations. You may or may not become the CTO of the company, or chief marketing officer of the company, or the HR of the company. But there's one role which is up for grabs every single day, every single moment, within your teams, within your decision, within your organization, within your family. And you know what is that? It's called chief problem solver. It's called chief roadblock unblocker. And you know what is the good news? No one needed to give the title to you. It's up for grabs. Anyone can take it. But if you really wanted to take the title, what do you need to do? You need to be really good at your craft. If you are not really good at your craft, would you be able to position yourself as the chief problem solver? No. So I've seen it firsthand, and I'm telling you, not just from my own life experience, from the experience of talking to hundreds of people, both across the globe, and also the most accomplished people of the who is who of the IT industry in Hyderabad. It really works. If you are intentional, if you are consistent, if you are improving your craft on a daily basis, you really don't need to worry about your titles. You really don't need to worry about anything. Your focus should always be adding value to people. And if you are able to do that, and if you are able to get a kick out of it, I can't even explain how it begins to feel like. You have to experience it. And that's the life that I've been living all these years, right? And if I am telling you that uh, it's all about influence, then you may ask, Kishore, how do I improve my influence? Again, I gave you the answer. How do you improve your influence? You improve your influence by adding value to others. But the question is, how do you add value to others? By adding value to yourself, right? Without adding value to yourself, you can't give what you don't have, right? Can you give what you don't have? No, right? So in order to help others, first you need to help yourself. So let me ask you this question. How many of you are continuously mastering your craft, at least by spending 30 minutes on a daily basis? Okay, let me reduce the bar. 10 minutes on a daily basis. How many of you are actually spending time? We all are doing something for our livelihood, right? We are doing some job or the other. Whether you like it or not, that's a different story. But by the way, if you don't like the job that you are in, don't work. Don't stay in that for a longer time. Come out of it and then try to find something which you really resonates with you, which makes you feel like you're actually playing, you're not working, right? But my question is, if you are not spending time, if you are not investing time on yourself, nobody is going to help you. Even God cannot help you. You know what? The greatest project that you can ever work is yourself. Not the projects that you are delivering in your offices on a monthly or quarterly or yearly basis. The greatest project that each one of us can ever work is ourselves, right? And as I said that, in order to be able to give someone something to others, first you need to possess it, you need to acquire that, right? And when you brighten the light for somebody, it will also brighten your path, right? When you light a lamp for somebody, it will brighten your path as well, right? So even the Bible also says, give and it will be given to you, right? And a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Proverbs 11:25. If you are just ducking on your title, people would follow you because your organization made you as a manager, made you as a senior manager or a vice president, right? People would follow you because that's the only way that they would get their salary. But remember, if people are following you because of your title, they will give you the least amount of their energy, attention, and efforts. Let me repeat it. If your team is following you just because you are one level above them, Go back and check. They always give a little amount of their effort, energy, and attention. Then how do you have to really transition yourself to such a way that people would want to follow you, not because they have to, but because they want to, right? And there are lots of people, I see in organizations, uh, it's actually tough being in people business and not being liked by people. So lots of times I see people don't like them, their team members don't like them, because they never, it's all about themselves, and it's a you centered leadership. It's not about people, it's always about them. So as a result, people don't like them. And if people don't like you, and you've been forcefully given a title and declared as a leader, well, I pity you, because it's not an easy place to be in, because no one likes you, right? So that's a very difficult thing. So now let me ask you some questions that you can reflect on. If you are someone who is working with the teams, my question to you is, how are you treating your colleagues at your workplace? Do you praise them or do you belittle them? Do you make them feel motivated or demotivated? Or worse, do you make them feel worthless? You may be jokingly saying things, right? And are you feeling superior to those in your teams or people in the lower bands of the organization? And worst one, have you developed certain level of arrogance or entitlement attitude? Have you started treating everyone with dignity and respect? So therefore, you can't, title won't help us. So what do we need to do? We need to move from positional authority to moral authority. We need to move from positional authority to personal authority, positional authority to moral authority. So how do we do it? You need to build good relationship with the people, right? So leaders touch people's heart before they ask for their hand. And let me also tell you, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. You go back and you reflect on this and check in your own setting. They really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. They don't care about your designation. They don't care about how much salary you are making. They don't care about how many people are reporting to you until they 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 understand how much you really care about them. So my question to you is, do you really care about your people whom you are working with? And Jesus, why do I said people would reach out to their heart before they are asking for their hand? Jesus washed the feet of his followers before asking them to carry the gospel into the world. He first served them humbly. John 13:15 says, I have set you an example that you should do as you have done for you. I'll give you a real world example. It's about APJ Abdul Kalam and Satish Dhawan, the ISRO chairman. 1979, ISRO has launched the SLV-3 rocket, right? And then the mission failed. The satellite fell into the ocean. So the media was waiting aggressively. There was so much hype created about it. So the media was obviously waiting, very disappointed and waiting aggressively. The country was disappointed. The project team was devastated, obviously. And as I mentioned, that Abdul Kalam was the project director and he felt personally responsible for the failure. But then something extraordinary happened. That day, ISRO chairman Satish Dhawan called the press conference. He went ahead and he called the press conference. And then everyone expected him to blame the technical team. Instead, Dhawan stepped forward and told the media, we failed today. I take responsibility. Our team worked very hard. We'll learn, improve, and succeed next time. So what did he do? He protected his team publicly because he's the head of the ISRO, right? He went ahead and he said, it's my failure. Team really worked hard. I'm taking the full responsibility. We're going to bounce back, next time. And then immediately he went and he conducted a meeting with all the scientists and he said, let's analyze, prepare for the next launch. And the following year, the mission was succeeded. Then obviously what do you expect? You expect Satish Dhawan to conduct the press conference. No, he didn't do it. He asked Abdul Kalam to address the press conference and take all the credit. What's the leadership lesson here? Satish Dhawan touched the hearts of his people before asking for more effort, resilience, and commitment. Especially in Indian workplaces, people would not remember what you said, what you did to them, but they will certainly remember how you made them feel. People would remember in your teams who stood by them during failure. They will remember who protected them publicly. They will remember who encouraged them when the confidence was low. As I said, they don't remember the targets, the milestones, deliveries that you have given, that they have delivered, but they would rarely forget who stood with them when things went wrong. So, what kind of a leader are you? What kind of positional authority are you exhibiting on the floor? Are you taking the credit of your team when things go in your way, and doing the opposite when things go the other way? Or is the Satish Dhawan example is resonating with you, right? And as I said, that you should always look for opportunities, and you need to do things that add value to your people, and you also need to constantly thinking of building bridges with your people, right? And your people would look at you whether my manager, my leader is trustworthy or not. Are you someone who says something meaning the other and doing a third one altogether? How many times in your office do you go and tell to your people, okay, I'll get back to you tomorrow, I'll definitely review this, leave it with me, we'll fix this soon, and then quietly hope that the other person will forget about it, right? Maxwell says leadership is not built in big conference room. Leadership is built in small moments of consistency. And what we need to remember is, if you are a leader, you need to remember that you are always in the business of trust. Every interaction that you are having with your team member, right? Every meeting, right? Every act of yours is leading to building, either eroding your trust with your team members or building your trust with your team members. You can have a great strategy, you can have a great vision, you can have a great communication skills, you may prepare great PowerPoint slides. These days no one is preparing PowerPoint slides, you're using AI agents. But if people internally say, oh, let's see whether this actually happens, then you're already having a trust deficit. And when does trust build with your team? When your words and actions match. As I said in the beginning, I'm not going to teach anything which is not known to you. This is something that we have been taught very early in our childhood. When your words and action match, you're building your trust with your team members. When you make a promise, even in a pressurized situation, you are keeping up your promise, then you're building your trust with your team. And when your behavior remains constant, irrespective of whatever is the situation, then you are actually building your trust with the team. And you can't behave in a psycho manner when things are going wrong, or deliveries are being missed out, or your next level is putting a lot of pressure on you, and you come back and you translate all of that onto your teams. But when everything is goody goody, and you become a different person, then people would consider you as a psycho, not as a leader. So how is your behavior changing with respect to the pressure? And then most importantly, now I've been working for the last 25 years. If you ask me to say one word which is indispensable for the success of a leader, I would, without any hesitation, I would use the word credibility. And I say this every single time I have an opportunity to talk to people. My definition of credibility is character into competence. Credibility equals to character into competence. Why do I say that? As I told you that let's say my kids, of course, they're not practicing medicine. My elder one just finished MBBS and preparing for MD exams, and younger one is studying MBBS. Let's say that, Indian way, like, if you have a doctor in your house and all your relatives, when they are in need of something, and obviously they'll reach out to us, right? So let's just say that someone is in need of a nephrologist, and then they reached out to my son. This is not a real conversation, hypothetical conversation. Let's just say that my son would say, yeah, I know one of my classmates' father runs a hospital and is a nephrologist, great nephrologist in the city, and you can definitely go and visit him. He's a super talented, but there's a problem. He's got he will ask you to undergo tests when they are not needed. Even he will ask you to undergo surgery when it is not needed. And there were some rumors that he has stolen few kidneys. Would you be comfortable going and visiting that doctor? Why? What is his credibility? Zero. Why? Character? Zero. Competence? 1. Credibility equals to character into competence. 0 into 1. How much? Okay, then it's a no. Come on, man. What are you talking? Give me some other reference. Okay, my son said, okay, don't worry. There's other nephrologist in the city. He is a born Christian. He never missed a single Sunday school in his during his childhood. Never misses going to church every Sunday, and he's practicing in so-and-so hospital. He is very honest, decent person. He will not ask you to undergo tests when they are not needed. He will never ask you to undergo surgery when it is not needed. But there is a problem. His success rate is 50%. There are few people died on the surgery table. Would you be able to go and visit that doctor? Why? What is his credibility? 0. Why? Character is competence. Okay, so now imagine, if you really want to build credibility as a leader in your life, right, you need to master these two things. And as Christians, we are really blessed with the Bible, and that teaches us, if you have good upbringing, going to church, you got good elders who are speaking into your life, you got a good pastor who is mentoring to you on a daily, weekly basis. So that part is being taken care, right? But that's a lot of hard work. I'm not going there. That's a lot of intentional hard work that you need to put in place to be able to be better on the inside than outside, bigger on the inside than outside. When I say bigger on the inside than outside, what do I mean? I'm talking about competency. I'm talking about credibility, the integrity, honesty, trustworthiness, those kind of characters. Bible would teach all of them. How to be respectful to others, how to be helpful to others, right? How do you build that integrity? All those things, the character part of it would come from Bible. As believers in Christ, we are in an advantageous situation. And if you're not built enough character yet, don't miss the opportunity to read Bible and use it as a blessing on your life. Let me talk about the second part of it, which is relevant to this session, right? The competency part of it, right? I think many times during this session, I told you, are you really working on mastering the craft that you are currently associated with, right? Maxwell says, Kishore, many leaders are like travel agents rather than being a tour guides. And you know the difference between a travel agent and a tour guide, right? So a travel agent is someone who would send us to places where he or she never been themselves to, right? And on the other hand, what does a tour guide do? He knows the place, he lived there, he has done it, he's been there hundreds of times, he know what to wear, when to go, what to see, right? Every single thing. So as leaders, we need to be like tour guides, not travel agents. Now let me ask you a loaded question. Are you a tour guide or a travel agent for your team, for your family? If you are a travel agent, you have a bad news, because you are no longer going to be considered as a leader. You may duck under that positional authority for some time, but afterwards you will get exposed. But if you are a tour guide, if you are someone who worked very hard to position themselves in a craft that they really love to be with, because again, that's a different discussion on its own. How do you identify that? How do you identify something that really resonates with you? what are you really passionate about, and when you're doing which activity you really don't bother about the time, and you feel like certain things are coming natural to you. That's a different topic altogether. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you are assuming that you have positioned yourself in a craft which you really love to be associated with, um, for the foreseeable future, then you should really start working on improving that on a daily basis. And you need to position yourself for your teams as tour guide, not like travel agent. And let me ask you one more question. Can you honestly ask a question to yourself? Do you ever think, listen to me carefully, do you ever think any of your team members would feel like, someday I would really love to be like this person? If you are not in the on that, if you are not reached to that level, what do you really need to do to position yourself to reach to that stage where your people would really look up to you and start saying that, one day I would really love to be like this sister, I would really love to be like this brother? And it's a lot of hard work. It doesn't happen automatically. You have to be really, really intentional about it. If you are not intentional, see, the world is changing very fast. You all agree with me? Change is the default operating environment right now. And I am making an assumption that a lot of people in this room are from IT industry. If you are in IT industry, then things even are changing at a rapid pace now, right? Gone are those days where you say that, okay, my long-term plan is for 10 years, short-term plan is or a medium-term plan is for 5 years, or short-term is 2 years. Even a 6 months plan, if you're in IT world right now, the way the tools are changing, the way the processes are changing, practices are changing, right? I've seen firsthand how we have transformed our organization in terms of how people would code, people would people would test, deploy, all those things. Everything is changing rapid pace. So if you are not, first you need to accept the fact that world is changing very fast, right? And you cannot expect yourself to be successful by remaining static in a world that is changing at a rapid pace. And if you are thinking that I'll keep doing what I'm doing, but I really want to be successful in my life, bad news. You can't be successful in your life if you keep doing what you're doing. Whatever success that you got today, that would remain with you. But again, there is a challenge. Whatever has brought you to this level, whatever practices, tools, habits have brought you to that level, there is no guarantee the same things would continue to give the same results for a period of time as well. So my point here is, if you really wanted to do better, be better, become better in your life, you have to start working on yourself. Whatever it is. If you don't do it, you will never be able to change your life. There is this book called As a Man Thinketh. I read that book, and the author says that people will have uphill aspirations, downhill habits, right? All of us will have uphill aspirations, but our habits are downhill. People wanted to change themselves. People wanted to achieve success, but they don't want to change their circumstances. They don't want to change themselves. Therefore, they remain bound. So I don't know what is stopping you. Is it the lack of awareness that you really got to work on yourself? Is it lack of awareness? Nothing changes until you change something you do on a daily basis. I don't know what is stopping you, but you really need to start reflecting on it, right? And again, when you are with your teams, this is my favorite quote from Maxwell. He says, your talk talks, your walk talks, but your walk talks more than your talk talks. Did you understand that? Your talk talks, your walk talks, but your walk talks more than your talk talks. If you are someone who is only who is talking the talk, not walking the talk, you will extend as a leader. Doesn't matter what title you have today, it's not going to help you, right? And what does the Bible says? Timothy 4:12, set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Right? And some people, I've seen some people, they study in all these big Hyderabad public school, Delhi public school, and, goes to different big reputed educational institutions. There's nothing wrong, by the way. But then they come up with so much of great talent, especially in terms of communication, right? When you go and join a team with amazing communication skills, it will only help you for 6 months at the max. 6 months, your communication will override your credibility. You remember the definition of credibility that I told you? So if you are a great communicator, you resigned your existing job, you went and joined a new job, your communication is going to help you the first 6 months, because communication overrides credibility in the initial part, because I don't know you. I don't know your personality. I don't know your values, right? I don't know anything about you. Therefore, communication overrides credibility. But after 6 months, credibility overrides communication. The more time you spend with your teams, the more time that you spend with your people, right? The less value your words will have, the more weightage your actions will have. So now my question to you is, what is your credibility score with your team members? Again, there is this thing, with different people, your credibility score would be different, right? Different people perceive your competence at different levels. Maybe because you're not spending enough time with the others. Maybe you really don't, you have that blind spot. You always wanted to go lunch with 2 people in your team. You always wanted to go to, maybe, I don't know, weekend activity, whatever it is, with, selected set of people. You always, you're not doing it intentionally, but you don't spend time with certain people in your teams. Right? Think about it for a moment. Put yourself in the shoes of the person, because some people, they're not so dynamic on the floor. They don't carry that charisma. In the first impression, they don't, give you that vibe of, going and talking to them. But there's nothing wrong with that kind of a behavior. But as a leader, you have been given the responsibility to bring the best out of your people. So what are you doing? Are you really spending time with them? What are those people now? When I'm talking to you, thoughts might be coming, going through your brain right now. Some faces might be appearing in your head. Okay, I did not really spend time with these people. I always avoid them. So these are blind spots, dear brothers and sisters. So you need to really think about it. You may not be doing it intentionally, but if you really understand this blind spot and start working on it, it would change the entire dynamics of your leadership. It would change the environment in your teams, in your organizations. And if, as I said, people would not remember what you said, what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Imagine that person whom you are not spending time, with whom you never consider going for a lunch in office cafeteria. How does that person feel? So think about it for a moment. I leave that question to you, right? And some of us, one of the challenging thing that I had as a leader initially, I don't want to listen, and I always wanted to be the first one to speak. Right? I go to any meeting because I was there. I was the first employee in my organization, especially the one where I'm currently working for the last 11 years. I know from the first letter of code that was written, right? So I have that feeling that I know everything, right? I'm the best person. I have answers for all the questions, or I can answer anything. What I did was, and I didn't realize that, what I did was, when I go to any meeting, I tell them, hey, this is the problem. This is what I think we should be doing. Let's go out of the room. Khatam. Because you killed the diversity in the room. You're not given the opportunity for people to speak, people to contribute. Why do we have this diversity inclusion departments in our organizations? Because you never know, depending on our upbringing, our value system, the environments that we exposed to, the people that we associated with throughout our life would give us different perspectives. So you never know what kind of perspectives the people would be able to bring to table when you give them an opportunity. If I go and tell them this is the problem, this is how I think we should do it, let's go ahead. What is there to discuss, right? Especially when you go for any meeting, there will always be one person whose opinion is considered or given most value because he has got the highest title in the room. I call it as highest paid person opinion, hippo. If you are a hippo and if you don't have this habit of listening at the last and you wanted to listen first, you are actually crushing the diversity of the thought in the room. So if you really don't want to be a positional, you don't want to bank on your positional authority, you don't want to position yourself as a great leader, you need to learn to speak last and you need to ask a lot of questions. And people don't ask questions. I don't know why. There are no stupid questions, only stupid people who don't ask questions. And when I reflect back, my biggest learning has come from the questions that others have asked. Why do we not ask questions? We don't want to ask questions for the fear of being judged as, someone might think that I don't know this, or we will come across as less knowledgeable person, whatever it is. Different reasons for different people, and we don't ask questions. There's nothing wrong in asking questions, but there is one ground rule. I will never allow the person to ask the same question repeatedly. You can ask in that session, but every single week you come and ask the same damn question, then that's wrong, right? Even mistakes also, it's perfectly fine. In our organization, we'll say it's perfectly normal, perfectly okay to make mistakes, as long as you don't repeat the same mistake next time. Because we'll treat you, we will teach you. When you make a mistake, we are there for you. We will teach you, we'll train you, because your success is our success. It's our responsibility to make sure that you understand do's, don'ts, everything. The expectation is that you don't need to do that mistake, right? So what I'm trying to, couple of things that I told you, I want you to be the, start practicing to listen well and learn to be the last one to speak, right? And I also want you to acknowledge the diversity people would bring to the discussions, and you need to ask questions. And remember, just because you are a leader, you don't need to have all the answers. No, why do we have, organizations are never built by one person. Teams are not being built by one person. It's always a group of people. A group of people put together would build a great organization, right? If you know all the answers, then why do you need all the people in the organization, right? So don't beat yourself. Don't say that you need to know all the answers. So when I started the organization, and all of a sudden when I got that new title 11 years ago, managing director, and my ego says I need to know all the answers, and I started answering questions which I have no business answering. First of all, I don't know, and I have no business of answering those questions, but I went ahead and answered all those questions. So my challenge to this team is, can you be mindful and intentional and transition yourself from a position of constantly answering questions to constantly asking questions? Are you with me? Right? So it's so powerful. This is so simple. And again, I'm not teaching anything new. Try and practice one week in your organization and see what miracles it would do. Right? And mind you, in the AI world, because day in, day out now, my job is to build AI agents, use AI agents, right? And deploy agents for our internal customers, external customers. In the age of AI, who is going to be paid more? Who is going to be paid more? The one who can ask more questions. Do you know that? What is prompt engineering? Right? So you know that you need to know the context. You need to ask the right questions. So if you master the habit of asking more questions, you're not only becoming a better person, you're not only increasing your level of awareness, in fact, you'll be paid more in your career too. Okay, I'll wrap this up now. And one thing that I learned in my career is when I met Maxwell, And one thing he told me, Kishore, you know, people will have uphill aspirations, downhill habits, and nothing comes for free of cost, right? There's nothing as free lunch. You need to really work hard. He told me either you pay now and play later, or play now and pay later. No matter what, Kishore, you need to pay. The longer you wait to pay, the more you need to pay. Did you understand this? What I'm trying to tell you? Nothing comes free of cost. Even if you want to take your career to next level, you have to put in a lot of effort. You have to put in a lot of effort on a daily basis. If you don't do that, if you don't put that effort on daily basis, no, you should be consider yourself lucky to get that position, and then that's it. Your career is going to get plateaued. So, what are you currently paying now? How are you paying to improve your career? Remember what I told you? The longer you wait to pay, what? The more you need to pay. So, do you want to pay less? Do you want to pay more? Do you want to pay now and have excellent career, transition yourself into a great leader, or you wait now, just chill, watch Netflix movies, or spend a lot of time doing all useless things, but you are playing now. So what would eventually happen? You pay later. But unfortunately, your family would pay, your kids would pay, your parents would pay, because they are indirectly related to you, related to your payment activity, basically. That's what I meant to say. They're directly related to you, but indirectly related to your payment activity. So that's another thought that I would want to leave you with, right? There's one interesting story Maxwell always says. He says, imagine there is a big tree in your backyard, right? And you want to cut it. You take a tool, which is obviously an axe, right? You get up from bed, go to your backyard, swing the axe 5 times. Then go back to your work. Next day you come, get up from your bed, go to your backyard, take the axe, swing it 5 times. Not 50 times, not 15 times, only 5 times. But if you keep doing it on a daily basis, what is going to happen to that tree? The tree is definitely going to fall, right? There's no science involved. If it is a bigger tree, it will take a longer time. If it is a small tree, it will take lesser time. But eventually the tree is going to fall, right? So the question is, what tree do you have in your backyard? Is it binge watching television? Or is it spending a lot of time on social media? Is it procrastination? Is it laziness? Is it not honing your skills? Is it unhealthy food habits? I don't know what you have it. Because leadership is not just about what you do in a professional setting. It's also about what you do in your personal setting too, right? So, I'll leave you with the thought, what tree have you got in your backyard? What tools do you need to go after that tree? And you don't want to cut it immediately. Even if you feel like you cut it immediately, it's not actually, you not actually made a huge difference. You need to consistently start working on it and acting on it. Only then you will be able to transform your life, right? How many of you have read the book Atomic Habits? Raise your hand. Only 3 people, 4 people. I would highly encourage you to read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a life-changing book, I'm telling you. And I've read that book 3 times, and I don't mind reading it 3 more times as well. And I've done a session with my team, during Christmas vacation. Obviously, we'll have plenty of free time, year-end. And then, I don't remember the year, maybe 2022 or 2023. I read that book, 2022 probably. I read that book, and then I gave a session to my entire team, and obviously that was COVID time, so we have recorded the whole thing, and it is available on YouTube channel as well. But otherwise, there are plenty of videos of the gentleman as well. And he says, success actually comes from the compounding of small habits done repeatedly. And he actually proves that if you become better by 1% every single day, at the end of the year, you'll become 37% better. And if you become 1% worse every single day, you'll become 0% by the end of the year. He says that 1.01 to the power of 365 is 37 percentage. 0.99 to the power of 365 is 3%. 0%. So it's not about as a leader, both in your organization and in your personal life, it's not about what you do once, it's about what you do daily, right? Growth doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. So it depends on what you are doing on a daily basis, right? So what are you doing on a daily basis? So have an inventory of what you are doing to improve your leadership skills. So we looked at, I told you that you needed to move from positional authority to personal authority, positional authority to moral authority. And I told you that you have to build good relationship with people to be able to do it. And when I say good relationship, not just with your team members, we are all working in organizations, we'll have our peers. So if I ask you a question, are you maintaining good relationship with other managers in your organization? You may say, why do I need to do that, Kishore? Me, my team, small world, and we are happy. We're doing absolutely well. And why do I need to maintain a relationship with my other managers? But let me ask you this question. Tomorrow, if I promote you, how many of your peers would actually accept your leadership? If you are not maintaining good relationship, what do I mean by saying good relationship? You need to understand their communication style, you need to understand their the talents that they bring, what they are capable of, engage with them in meaningful conversations, look for opportunities to engage with them, work on certain projects in the organization, either by volunteering or through organizational process, right? But we don't do it. Certain people, they don't care their team members, they don't care their peers. All the time what they care is their boss. But you should be 360 degrees, right? You need to maintain a good relationship with your team members, your peers, and your boss. Okay, so build relationship with people, and then you need to be trustworthy. I told you that you should never become someone who would say something meaning the other and doing a third one altogether. And I told you to be credible. You need to be intentional in building your credibility, right? And I explained you what is credibility. And I told you, if you really wanted to transition from positional authority to personal authority, you need to listen well. You need to ask more questions. You need to be the last one to speak, right? In any meeting, I told you that you have to listen. The only thing you are allowed to say is ask more. Don't say yes, don't say no. Ask more questions until you heard everyone, until you have an opportunity to put all the perspective and be able to take a decision. And I also told you, don't be a hippo, highest paid person opinion, right? And then you need to be intentional and consistent in improving your current posture on a daily basis. If you are able to do all of this, you will not just improve your leadership lead, not just in your organization, but in your personal life as well. And when we improve, everyone will win. I told you in the beginning of this session that when leader gets better, everyone wins. When leader gets better, everyone will get better. If you are a better person, your entire family would get benefited from that. If you are transitioning into a better person, your entire team and obviously your organization will get better from it. So with that, I will stop here.